bears are found throughout the forested areas of northern and western states. The first step in locating an area with bears is to research the record books for the most productive counties in a given state. Once you've chosen an area to scout for Bruins, you'll need county maps to delineate public lands, trails, and waterways. You're most likely to spot bears in the spring or fall, especially in late April or early May, when Bruins emerge from dormancy. These spring bears head for water and south-facing slopes where the grass greens first. Feeding activity is at a peak during these times, and abundant food sources will concentrate bears. Spring greenery is followed by winter-kill carcasses and rodents. In late spring and early summer, bears become a major predator. In August and September, you'll find bears in berry patches and apple orchards. Our first bear hunt is a classic springtime adventure. Glenn Barry and two bow hunting companions have chosen several bait sites approximately 5 miles apart in the Clearwater National Forest in Idaho. It's important to begin baiting 2 to 4 weeks before the hunt. Once the bait is hit, establish a set routine for adding more food. Natural foods, such as fish and fruits, supplemented with donuts, dog food, and beef scraps, work best. Check the local hunting regulations carefully before baiting. Some areas permit only liquid scents, and others require pre-registration of the bait location. Because of the distance between camp and Glenn's bait sites, he'll use his ATV. But Glenn will walk the last 300 yards to the bait site to ensure the area is undisturbed. Several days later, Glenn and his friends have many active baits. Tom has won the toss of the coin and will have the first opportunity for a bear. Glenn will be running the camera. They have set up several baits and will take turns on this springtime hunt in Idaho. This is Tom's first attempt at baiting for black bears. They'll check for sign and add more bait for their evening hunt.
All right, it's got hit. Sure did, clean us right out. There's the bucket, and you put that, and I'll check the timer. Gotta make a mess of our log pile, too. See if I can cut a track here. Ground's pretty dry, I don't know if he's gonna leave much. Figured he'd probably stand up on this mound here.
You might get one right there's a track, ain't it?
Sure is.
Right there.
That's a pretty fair track, too, Glenn. That's darn near 5 inches across.
You might get a good bear on this.
Wouldn't surprise me if we got a 6-foot bear in here.
Well, you never know. We'll just wait him out and see, huh?
What's that timer say?
Let's see. 5:30 last night.
Alright.
So we got a good chance. It's what, 2 o'clock right now?
Just about to. You got any hair over there? He hasn't backed into this side.
There it is. Right here. Look at that. Look at that.
Right. Chocolate. Chocolate.
Yeah, it could be a blonde. It could have been off his legs, but hey, it looks like he's got some color.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me though if there's more than one bear using this bait site. So.
Yeah, they've been eating a lot, so.
Well, we'll get him baited again.
We'll feed him light tonight. And if we don't come in and get him tonight, he'll be hungry tomorrow.
Kind of making a mess of our
Yeah,
lives.
he tore the hell out of my string, too.
The trail timer is a small electrical watch that is helpful when baiting. A small string attached across the bait to the timer, which is triggered to show the time and date of the bear's activity.
Pretty good trail coming in from there.
They usually come in two or three different ways. You know, it's got a good trail right there. He could come out. I think he'd come through there.
There's one over here pretty good too in the grass. It's going to be a pretty good angle from our stand too. In good shape. Watch that string.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. I got it right there. What I usually do is wind it around one log, so when he jerks the log, he'll jerk the timer. These trail timers, they really help you. I've seen bears that only hit at nighttime. So, you know, I won't set on a bait that all the times have been at nighttime. So, well, let's see if we can wait him out, huh? Get up in that tree. Set him out.
Got my boy, grab the bucket. So,
All right. Thank you.
Tom Hedequist, age 27, is a paramedic for the county of Spokane. Tom has bow hunted for the past 5 years. During that time, he has taken deer and elk with his bow. Tom and Glenn have been in their tree stands for several evenings when this large boar shows himself. This Bruin detects a strange scent on the underside of the foliage. Foliage can hold your scent for an hour or more. As we watch this bear, we can see the makeup of a trophy black bear. The crown of the head is very wide. The neck is full, and he has a blunt, almost squared-off nose. Also, this bear is a good example of the wide array of color phases that exist in black bears. Color variations are a regional phenomenon, ranging from bright blonde, smoky, and every shade of brown. All three are common in western states. Notice the denseness of a black bear's fur. Add to this a 2-inch layer of fat, and you can understand why sharp, multi-blade broadheads work best, producing a better blood trail. Watch closely. Notice the large front paws on this mature Bruin as he steps forward. This bear is exceptional, and Glenn tells Tom to shoot him if he starts to turn and walk away. They have taken precaution using a pump bottle filled with vanilla extract, spraying their boots and pant legs to help mask their human scent before walking into the bait. This Bruin seems to be as cautious as they come. Tom's heart starts to race. The brown-colored bear is now only 13 yards away. The bear continues to test the thermals and pauses to study the bait. This shows how much patience these wily animals have. It's not uncommon for bears to lay within 100 yards of the bait and wait until darkness before feeding.
That arrow went right through the shoulder blade. I'm not sure if he got one lung or two. Being as he didn't go more than 30 yards, sure penetrated both lungs.
Tom's arrow was a little to the right, but it penetrates the shoulder blade, collapsing both lungs for an easy recovery. In the excitement, Tom sums up his feelings.
This is a reward for archery hunting, boys.
Tom's chocolate brown bear scored 18 5/16 inches. Glenn Berry now has the next opportunity for a bear. At age 32, he is the owner of Big Bull Productions. Glenn has 17 years of bow hunting experience and has taken mountain goat, deer, elk, antelope, and black bear bow hunting. Now, let's join Glenn on this rainy spring afternoon in a pit blind just 17 short yards from his bait setup. Pit blinds are tricky, but Glenn has chosen a spot opposite from the bear's entry to the bait. The afternoon thermals keep Glenn's scent away from the bear. The bear heads for dense cover and is momentarily out of view. The sound of the rain effectively masks small noises of the camera, and this is in Glenn's favor. It allows him to change his position to a more favorable angle to the approaching bear. The bear breaks cover and heads toward the trail. Glenn and Pat have cleared an area on the trail that the bears have been using. When he eats the marshmallow, he'll leave behind clear tracks that help indicate his size. As the bear stops, he's standing in a raked area of soft dirt. By measuring the front pad width and adding 1 inch, you can determine how big the bear will square. For example, if a front pad measures 5 inches in width, the bear's hide will square 6 feet. Another good rule of thumb, when a front pad measures 5 1/4 inches or more in width, the bear's skull should qualify for the Pope and Young Club record book. Glenn's Ranger up-a-tree camouflage blends perfectly, but it's important to remain motionless, even if you can't see your quarry. He may be able to spot you. Older bears seem to have a couple of observation points where they will stop and test the thermals for long moments and look over the bait area. He pauses and stares directly at the camera. Pat Stewart is running the camera. He remains motionless, just 5 yards behind Glenn. Glenn is in a good position to take him when he comes out of the cover, but the bear is broadside for only an instant, so Glenn decides to wait for a better opportunity. Glenn's arrow penetrates the bear's chest for a double lung hit. After a few leaps up the mountain, he rolls back down. Glenn approaches the downed bear cautiously. He knocks another arrow for a quick follow-up if it's necessary. Rules applying to the approach of big game should be followed closely, especially with bears. Allow sufficient time to pass before approaching, and when possible from their backside. At 5 yards, stop and study the carcass for possible respiration. Nudge any big game animal to make sure it has expired before handling it. Pat congratulates Glenn. With a few days left, he'll have the last opportunity for a springtime bear. Glenn with his 5 1/2 foot spring bear. Pat Stewart, age 31 from Spokane, has taken several deer and black bears with a bow and arrow.
Well, did you get a bear?
No, there was one come in though. Pretty nice bear, but not that big one. I'm gonna hold out for that big one because we got lots of hunting season left.
Well, tell me about it. You got up in the tree stand. How long did it take to come in?
Well, we hunted all day, and about 40 minutes before dark, I could hear a bear down below. So I kind of got myself in position and got kind of ready, and I could see the bear down below me in those cedars. Pretty thick cedars and some big timber down in there. And I could see bits and pieces of him, and he looked pretty good. He had a pretty good sized head from way down below there. It's really steep right there, and I could see him pretty good, and I thought it might be that nice bear to be close to 6 foot. I was hoping, and he come out of the open there and right into the bait, and I was all set to shoot, all ready, full draw and everything, and it was that small bear, the smaller bear on that bait that's come in, and he come in.
Well, you found a 5-inch track on that.
Yeah, there was a 5-inch track on that, real good track.
So when he came in and got the bait, he didn't hang around. Now, he grabbed a mouthful and took off?
Yeah, he grabbed a mouthful and took off, and then it was getting darker and darker, and he came in, and then I could hear that other bear, and then that small bear took off.
You know what we call the big bear syndrome is?
Yeah.
Is when the bigger bears, they don't want to come into the bait during when it's light, but they'll just come around the sides of the bait just where you can barely see them, and then the smaller bears start run the other bears off.
Yeah.
So little bears want to come in there at light, and the big bears come in there at dark.
Yeah, it happens.
But so the big one was there, he just wouldn't come in?
Yeah, he was there, but it wasn't light enough for video. It was right at dark. I mean, the guy couldn't have got a shot, but if we'd have waited, we could have seen him.
I know you've shot 3 bears already, and one of them just barely missed the brook. It's probably no big deal. Let a little one go by. So you know, you get a thrill out of everyone that comes in. So.
Oh yeah, my heart was pumping. You know, that's the main thing. It's exciting.
That's what it's all about.
That's right.
Well, hey, thanks for coming along.
You bet.
I got camped all packed up, and ready to go.
Good.
Thought we'd come out here and meet you.
All right.
Tom went ahead and went home.
Good. It was good hunting with him, and he got a real nice bear, and that was good to see that, you know.
And you ran the camera on the other bear that I shot out of the pit, so 2 out of 3 guys getting 2 nice bears. And we're not complaining.
That's right. We had a good time. That's the main thing, get out here.
So it's been fun. Hey, buddy, think we ought to go home? Want to go home? Okay. Well, thanks a lot.
You bet.
Our next hunt takes place in the fall on public land just outside of Spokane, Washington. Surprisingly, many bears live unnoticed in suburban areas around large cities. Glenn is trying to help Chris Barcelos collect his first black bear. Chris is a 27-year-old carpenter who has taken elk and deer with bow and arrow. Chris is an avid bear bow shooter.
Okay, Chris, this is looks like a good area. I know you was baiting about 10 miles from here over in a thicker area, and you had lots of bears hitting your bait. You had some problems over there with some other hunters.
Oh yeah, I took off to Oregon for a couple weeks. When I came back, there was somebody on my bait pile, and all that time and effort, I ended up tearing the stand down. Got pretty pissed off.
You know, we got a word for those guys.
What's that?
Bait pirates.
That's a good word for them.
Well, what about this place? What made you decide to pick this location for a bait site?
Well, Glenn, there's about 3 different apple orchards in this whole area in here, and I went in here one day after I got over the other side of the mountain, you know, went in here and seen fresh sign in here, and I didn't even bait yet, so I ended up putting some bait out here, and it took about a day and a half.
That's quick.
Yeah.
Bear hit it after just one day of being in here, huh?
Yep.
The next day you checked it and they hit it?
Yep.
Well, you got your stand up and everything, so...
Yeah, all set. Yeah, I was driving down the road the other day, and I seen a truck with some hounds in it. I just wondered if they run bears around this area.
Well, they usually, in all this northeastern side here, they run hounds in the fall season. I think your bait's far enough that the hound hunters aren't going to get a strike from it.
I heard in eastern Oregon that you were hunting with hounds.
Oh yeah, we had last fall, I was down there elk hunting, and I met a couple guys in Joseph, Oregon, by the names of Bill Tippett and Sonny and his brother-in-law. They asked me if I wanted to go out and hound hunting with them a little bit, and I've never been with hunting with hounds before, so I thought, why not? So the next morning we were down on the Imanaha River down there, and they got a strike right off the bat. Me and Bill, we got up on the trucks and tried to keep track of the dogs, and them houndmen got a good ear for hearing them hounds. I thought, well, they treed a bear up on top of the hill there, and it's pretty steep there in the Imanaha Canyon. And we took the camera crew up there and found out there's no bear in the tree. So I thought, well, this is going to be a little work. Well, the third morning, we got our race early that morning, and we were sitting on the side of the mountain, and we'd seen a bear across the other side. And we planned to stalk them and get in close with the dogs and run them that way. The dogs were already exhausted from that morning. It was running over 100 degrees down there. Well, we went to the bottom, and there's some private property there, and we got the landowner's permission. Bill knew the guy, he's a real nice guy down there. All we had to do was cross his property, but we wanted to get permission first. And we walked the dogs up the mountain there, and me and Bill brought one set of dogs in from the side, and Sonny brought some dogs up from the bottom, and it took about 15 minutes, and they treated the bear in there. We tried to set the camera up there, and it was real steep, it was real hard. We wanted to get the camera right behind me, so when I shot the bear, you could see the arrow come out of the bow. And it was so steep, we was worried about falling and losing the camera on the cliffs there. And they pulled the dogs out from underneath the tree, Bill and Sonny did. And as soon as he did that, the bear starts coming down out of the tree. Well, I had a shot at him, but they told me not to shoot the bear until he caught all the hounds. There was a couple hounds running loose still, so in case the bear, when you shoot the bear, it might fall down and hurt a dog underneath the tree. So I let back down, and the bear got down in the thick, it was a fir tree, and it got down in the thicket on the tree there. And I seen a clear shot underneath, so I said, to hell with this, and I stepped down and drew back, and I drilled this bear right through the center of the chest. Arrow comes right out the back. The bear jumps up around the side of the tree there, and I think, well, I'm going to have to shoot him again just to make sure for insurance. And right when I drew back to start shooting, I seen him slip and start to fall, and I shot him anyways as he fell. When he hit the ground, he's stone dead. Well, you think it's about time to get into those bears?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Let's go get this bear and see if he gets in tonight. Maybe we'll get one of you shooting one tonight.
Chris and Glenn have just settled in their stands when Chris spots this bear. The bear enters the bait, but before Chris can shoot, the bear turns and leaves. This bear detects Glenn's coaching whispers to Chris. Watch the freeze-frame movements of this bear.
Yards. It seemed like he just spun around real quick and started heading up this hillside here, and I heard some brush cracking over there, but I'm not sure where he went after that.
Well, what I seen of it, the arrow, I know the arrow didn't get a pass through because we'd found the arrow right here. I seen the arrow hanging out of him as he run up the hill. It looked like a good hit. It was a little bit far back, but the quartering towards the shoulder a little bit, so I'm sure you got the liver at the least. Normally what we do is at least wait 20 to 30 minutes. On that kind of hit, we'll at least give it 2 to 3 hours. So it's going to be late, but I'm sure we got you a bear. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Chris Barcelos with his first black bear. Our next hunt takes place in Alaska. It involved a 24-hour drive from Spokane to Prince Rupert, BC, then an 8-hour ferry ride on the Alaska Ferry System to Southeast Alaska. Glenn will be meeting Steve Hansen, an Alaskan resident, on Prince of Wales Island. This huge mural on the ferry reflects the Alaskan heritage, showing hundreds of caribou on their migration. Glenn met a few other bow hunters on the ferry. Join us as we observe some of the most beautiful scenery in the world. The most common way to hunt black bear on these islands is to spot them on the ocean shores, then attempt to stalk. These islands also abound with other wildlife, such as Sitka black-tailed deer and bald eagles. Accompanying Glenn on this journey is cameraman Robin Boss. Now, let's join Glenn as he meets Steve Hansen at the docks. Steve works for the Alaskan Department of Fish and Game. At the age of 40, he has bow hunted on the islands for the past 10 years, taking several bruins that qualify for the record books. Steve prefers to spot bears from a small 16-foot aluminum boat he calls a skiff. Glenn's goal was to stalk one bear on the ocean shores and then try for a second bear by baiting. Steve would get the first opportunity for a bear. Glenn would be stalking behind him with the camera. Steve uses binoculars to glass a beach and soon spots a large Alaskan black bear. Aircraft noise was almost constant, but seemed to have no effect on the bears. This bear was within sight of a small local airstrip. Steve estimated this bear at 6 1/2 feet. A warning cry from a bird is making the bear nervous, and he continues to move away from Steve. Gunshots from other hunters in the area add to the bear's caution. Under the cover of aircraft engine noise, Steve quickly tries to close the distance between himself and the feeding Blackie. The large northern black bear makes his way toward dense cover. Steve makes his final approach, but the animal has disappeared into the forest. Scanning the area carefully produces no sign of this elusive animal.
We made a good stalk in here, but the wind was in our favor. We didn't make any noise, but these bears are in and out of the woods feeding all the time. Especially when you're trying to come up behind them. It looks like they're just moseying around, but they're really moving out. And I think it was his time to just go in the woods. We just had excellent wind and no noise, so just one of those things was this time everything was in the bear's favor. So hopefully they'll be back out again this evening sometime.
On the next hunt, Glenn spots a bear and signals Robin, the cameraman, to come up closer. This hunt almost gave Robin a nervous breakdown she'll soon witness. Glenn and Robin move around the bay, keeping close to the cover and taking advantage of grassy mounds. They were able to move within 100 yards of this bear. The Alaskan Bruin caught their movement and heads for thick cover. Glenn decides to follow him. When Glenn came over a rise suddenly, this big Alaskan black bear was at 15 yards. Pandemonium results. Robin is so rattled he fails to film Glenn's shot that strikes the bear through the lungs. The bear disappears in heavy cover. You've heard of buck fever. Now you've just seen a bad case of bear fever. Glenn waits an hour and a half before going after the large bear. The cover is so dense and thick with devil's club that Glenn uses a machete to chop his way through. This is a tricky situation. Glenn doesn't carry a backup firearm. But a short trailing job takes Glenn to his first Alaskan black bear trophy. Glenn used a Boning Blazer broadhead and a PSE jet flight bow. The bear measured 7 feet 2 inches from nose to tail and was officially scored at 19 12/16 inches and officially placed in the top 10 of bears taken in Alaska for the Pope and Young record book. It's Steve's turn for a bear, and once again they employ the skiff for spotting bears. A few miles out, they spot another large Alaskan blackie that appears to be feeding on the lush grass near the ocean shore. It's difficult to judge the condition of his pelt at this distance. Steve decides to stalk him. Robin maneuvers the skiff behind a large rocky point to begin the stalk, out of sight of the bear. Steve double checks his gear and moves closer. Steve glasses him carefully. This bear already has a large sprint rub mark in his fur. A sudden shift in the wind and the bear bolts into the underbrush.
What do you think that bear was scored?
He probably would have been a 20-inch bear, I think. He wasn't a big body, but just about any average bear here is going to be 19 or 20.
I know, they're big here.
Even the sows, you know, are going to score 18 or so. I think I saw one that was 19 the other day, the sow.
Do you have any way you tell a sow from a boar?
Well,
shoulders or around this hump?
it's interesting because normally in the spring, most of the hunting is concentrated around the beaches. And the harvest figures show that the majority of the the bears taken in the spring are boars. They seem to be more territorial, and they'll come down along the beach and they'll push the younger boars and the sows with cubs back up. So the predominant bag in the spring is boars. So more than likely you've got about a 7 chance out of 10 that it's going to be a boar to begin with. Then in the fall, when your hunting's on in the clear cuts and then on the rivers, it kind of flip-flops. The sex ratio evens out. But for the most part, you're going to be seeing boars down on the
And I read that the average boar is 19 inch, 19 and a half.
And on the islands here, they're much larger than on the mainland. I think the mainland bears average about 150 to 200 pounds. We don't have an awful lot of data, but the more average on this island is probably around 350 pounds. Spring ago, we got a boar that weighed 455 pounds field dress. It's got it hanging on the scale. It's 455.
It's a big bear, I know.
Big bear.
Usually run 6.5 foot, big bear, 7 foot,
Yeah,
so
7
really
foot.
big bear. Well, after we hit this base, you got some other hot spots we're gonna go check?
Well, yeah, there's several grassy areas like this, just in little coves all up and down this bay. What we'll do is we'll just head back down and glass those as we go. And I try to usually set up a sort of a circuit in these bays. I just keep running them until maybe the last hour and a half. And if there's a good flat, we'll set up on that and wait the last hour and a half.
You might not see a bear right now, but 15 minutes from now there might be one right there.
We've seen 8 at one time on this beach.
Got a lot of big mountains right behind it, I imagine. They're really come down there.
There's the bear population here, they estimated about 1.5 per square mile.
How many square miles on this island?
Oh boy, you got me, but it's a bunch.
Later that afternoon, Steve tries again on another bear. Ashore, Steve moves quickly to close the gap. But the light is failing rapidly, and Steve, rather than chance a poor stalk, decides to pass. It isn't necessary to tag game to have an enjoyable hunt.
Once you've located a bait site, after placing the bait on the ground and setting my timer, I set a Stanley Hips target down there, and I'm going to take a few practice shots. This allows me to make sure that my arm isn't going to cramp on the tree or feel uncomfortable while shooting. Another thing that I've done is set a NERC barricade up in the tree for the bears to get a scent and try to draw them into the donut pile. So now I'll take a few shots and we'll see if I can hit the target. But I figure if that black ring down there, if you can keep him consistently in that black ring, you'll be doing real fine for shooting a bear. That'll be your range. This is about 17 yards. So when I shoot the target, I expect to hit just a hair high, which would be for the angle down shot would be just fine.
When Glenn first arrived on the island, he prepared this bait site using 5 gallons of donuts. Having checked the bait in the morning, he went out with Steve in the afternoon hunting from the skiff. On the third morning, Glenn's bait was hit. He continues to bait for several more days to establish a set routine. In Alaska, you're required to post your name, address, and phone number around your bait site. Earlier, Glenn prepared this bait site, placing his tree stand 15 feet high and 17 yards from the bait. Positioning logs or brush in a V shape will help to funnel a Bruin's approach to offer a broadside or a quartering away shot. Glenn added more donuts and checked the bear grenade for the afternoon hunt. In this part of Alaska, 2 bears are permitted. This is Glenn's 7th day on the island, but it is the first time he will be sitting in the stand. When using a tree stand, it's important to hoist your bow up to the stand using a line. In the event of a fall, you're less likely to damage your equipment or yourself. A safety belt is also a must for tree stand hunting. This is possibly the hardest part of hunting, remaining quiet and motionless while waiting for the animal to appear. Robin is behind the camera, and since there isn't a bear in sight, the camera is perfectly steady. Watch the mid-upper portion of your screen. A bear is slowly approaching. Glenn and Robin have been sitting in their stand for over 3 hours now. He's stepping up onto a log and offers a perfect shot.
That's a big bear. I'd say a 20-inch class bear. He came in, he just wouldn't come in and get on the bait pile. He was real cautious. He stayed out there for 12 minutes, screwing around. We had the deck running, and he came up and he's getting a little braver and a little braver, and he got up on that log and gave me that nice broadside shot at 20 yards. And I just laid it on him, and man, it looked like a great hit on him. So I'm gonna wait. I usually wait at least 20 minutes to 30 minutes, but up here so thick, I'm gonna give him an hour. It's a big bear to go through the trees after, so we'll give him an hour, and it'll be late, but we'll still have time to find him. I'm sure he's just laying out there within 75 yards.
As Glenn descends from the stand, he lowers the bow with a line. It's easy to become excited at this point and take a deadly fall. Glenn examines the boning blazer broadhead. The arrow has gone completely through the animal, and the pinkish blood indicates it was a solid lung hit. Glenn begins the tracking process. Always trail animals slowly and carefully, so you don't overrun the sign. This is essential because an animal will often change direction abruptly, baffling the pursuer.
Got a good blood trail on this one.
Glenn finds where the bear has jumped a log and left traces of frothy blood. Losing this type of blood, the bear couldn't have gone very far.
Boy, a lot of blood right here. Oh, here he is, all right.
And here he is, a truly great Alaskan black bear trophy.
Well, this is a beautiful black bear. I'd say about 6.5 foot long. It's well into Pope and Young class animal. I shot it with a PSE jet flight and a blazer broadhead. The broadhead produced an excellent blood trail, which was vital for this kind of terrain. This trip to Prince of Wales has been a great one.
Glenn's bear officially scored 20 9/16, placing it in the top 5 black bears taken by Bo in Alaska.
The way you'd want to skin a bear for a rug would be hold the palms straight out on each side, cut straight line right across and an X. Come up just a little ways on the neck, go all the way down, and cut on the back side of the legs, all the way through here, taking a straight line. It'll make your taxidermist a lot happier.
We truly hope you've enjoyed Bear Action with Glenn Barry and his bow hunting friends in the beautiful Pacific Northwest. This video has taken 2 years and 4 hunting seasons to produce. We hope you'll enjoy bow hunting black bears as much as we have. And good hunting.